just the whole vibe of the thing was like, you still went to work with your dad every day. When we had children, you still had to get approval from your dad for being able to take time off to stay home with your wife, and that was a really big thing. When we went on vacation with your family, which we like to do, it was still like you were still kind of on the clock, and your dad still wanted you to do things. So it was like
100%.
we didn't have this good separation, and that was very, very, very hard on our marriage.
Yeah. Well, it was hard in two specific ways. It was hard on the marriage because you and I, that was just a point of contention, right? We would have to discuss it, and it was just a conversation that was necessary that we had. Had I not been working for my parents, we wouldn't have had to have those conversations.
Right.
So that was tough. And so it was tough for us, but then it was also tough for the in-laws as well, because now you're like, well, hey, there's an intrusiveness there. It's like, well, he's come, why do you have to do this with, work? And why is your dad doing X? And why is this? And so now not only is our relationship kind of in this turmoil state, but then it also brings bad blood with the in-laws and your relationship. So it was a twofold banger.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And welcome back to another episode of the Married with the Mugicas podcast. We are so excited that you are here. We are Richard and Hailey Mugica. We have 4 kids. We homeschool. We run a home-based business. We are very beginner homesteaders / micro farmers, however you want to look at it.
Micro farmers.
And
is that a new word you just made up?
I did.
Micro farmers?
I don't think I made it up.
Okay, I think you made it up.
I don't think I did.
Never heard of this one.
It's not really your world
Micro
either.
farmers.
It's like a micro farm. It's just a cute little hobby farm.
It's a total micro farm.
It's a micro farm.
Yeah, like there's micro houses, micro thoughts. It's a micro farm.
It's a micro farm.
If you can make up stuff, I can make up stuff too.
You can. That's true.
Let's get it.
And we are super passionate about marriage and just want to see marriages thrive, want to see couples enjoy their marriages. Our content in this podcast is created for Christian married couples who love each other, love being married, and want to get to the end of their marriage.
Absolutely.
And not just get there, but they want to thrive and enjoy the process.
You don't want to just arrive. You want to thrive.
Exactly. There's no trophy or pat on the back for hating your spouse and getting there in 50 years. Like, we want you to love each other.
Yeah. You don't have to rush it. Don't have to rush it. Or maybe you do.
Yeah. So how are you?
I am doing fantastic. So let me think about the day really quick. So today, woke up early, got a lot of stuff done in the morning. My mornings have been so productive. The first, I would say 3 hours of my day is like the most productive I am the whole day. And then after that, it's like a couple meetings, XYZ. But today was pretty productive. And then you guys, I actually was double productive today because then you guys went horseback riding. Mm-hmm. And then while you guys were doing horseback riding, I was like kind of just doing my AI stuff.
Yeah, you get the AI quiet house AI to yourself.
Mode. So anyways, good day, feeling good. Slept good last night. And I'm ready to dominate this podcast. I don't know about you.
That's good.
Yeah. So what about give me your scoop? What you got going on?
We had a good day. Today, Monday is horseback riding day, so that's always a good day. We also got 2 new baby kittens this morning.
Oh my gosh.
Which is very exciting.
Yeah.
Our kids have decided to name them Heaven and Angel, our girls.
Is that what they named them?
Yes. They came and their names were Lucy and Daisy, which I thought was so cute, and they just insisted on Heaven and Angel, so I said fine.
And of course, Thor wanted to eat them.
Of course, our golden retriever wants to eat them, so we're having to ease him into the idea of kittens. We already have 3 cats, but he can't get used to it. So we got those this morning. On a sad note, one of our chicks died, which was very sad. We hatched eggs last week. We got 11 babies. They've been doing really well. And then I went out this morning to check on them, and we had a dead one.
Oh, jeez.
But when we started this whole chicken process, I have an uncle who's like an actual legit farmer. And he told me, he's like, just prepare yourself for chicken death because chickens die. And here's our first one.
Oh, I know. You walked into the office so sad. I saw him there. I'm on a meeting. I can't really say anything, but I'm like, oh, man, that's a bummer.
It was like all wrapped in a little paper towel. It was so sad.
Oh, it was so sad.
But the rest of them are doing really well, and they're really cute, and they're starting to get their feathers, and it's a really fun process.
Can't beat it.
I'm going to say, because I'm self-conscious about it, so I'm going to address it. You were saying that you slept really good. Well, I haven't been sleeping well because I've been having these neck issues. I don't know if I need a new pillow. I don't know what's going on, but I have these neck issues.
Having the neck issues.
Yes. But the other day I woke up in bed with my girls and we were just kind of hanging out in bed for a little bit. And my oldest goes, Mom, you have some mascara under your eyes. So I go to wipe it, and then our younger daughter goes, no, Harbor, those are just bruises. I'm like, no, those are dark circles. Thank you very much. So if I look extra tired, as my girls pointed out to me.
Oh, man. I think you look awesome.
Thank you.
You look great.
And you guys are going to see us with some papers in our hands today. That's because Richard decided to go get all professional and make us some show notes. My guess is we'll stick to these for about 10% of the way, and then we're going to be way off the rails. But we're going to try it and see how it.
What do we got?
Last week on the podcast, we did a fun little AITAH episode.
That's right.
We've done one of those before. They're super fun. If you don't know, AITAH is a really common Reddit thread where people will bring their different relationship problems, and they're asking, hey, am I the problem here, or is this other person the problem? And you get to kind of weigh in. So we did a couple of those. It was things ranging from the wife has like $47,000 hidden from her husband to the wife wanted to open the marriage and the husband. Like, it was a range of topics. It was a fun conversation.
Oh my gosh.
And as promised, we've been promising this episode for a few weeks now. Today, we are talking about in-laws.
In-laws, baby.
And this is one of the very first episodes we ever recorded was about in-laws.
Yeah.
That episode was predominantly how to think about your in-laws as a couple, how to welcome them into your home, into part of your life.
That's right.
Safely.
That's right.
And this episode is a little bit more specific on for one, on the marriage, right? The premise of leaving and cleaving.
That's right.
You leave your father and mother, cleave to your wife.
Yeah.
So what that looks like and what happens if you don't do that well versus if you do it well. And then towards the latter half of the episode, we're talking about the differences between honoring your parents, which we are called to do, and obeying your parents, which you're called to do as a child and not anymore as an adult.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about the differences there.
That's going to be good.
And how, if you get those mixed up, you can get yourself in some hot water.
That's right. And some pretty cool frameworks on how to think about it as well.
Yes, we all know how much Rich loves a good framework.
You can't beat the frameworks, man. Let me tell you that.
But I think the bottom line of this episode, by the time all is said and done, I think we're really going to find that if you're having in-law issues in your marriage, it probably doesn't have anything to do with your in-laws, and it's more has to do with you and your spouse. I think you guys are the problem, and you guys need to figure out how to fix it.
For sure. There's no doubt about it.
And so that's where we're starting. So
I like it.
Where do we want to start this? Where do you want to go first?
Where do we want to go first? Well, do you want to give, maybe we give the scripture that it's based off of.
Okay.
You want to kind of set it up with the scripture?
Go ahead.
You think so? Okay. So, two scriptures that we're basing this off of. Genesis 2:24. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Verse number 1. Verse number 2 is it says, Matthew 19:5-6. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. Mm-hmm. Okay, so those are the two bases, or the two foundational scriptures that we're kind of building this off of.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to state this, is that there's a lot of marriages where you get married, but some way emotionally or spiritually or even physically, they're still tied to their in-laws. And we're going to go over, the damage that can cause and how to spot it and how to overcome it. Mm-hmm. So I think we start maybe there. Any specific example that maybe you have early on in marriage where we kind of squashed this or struggled with it?
I think we've got both examples, honestly.
Yeah.
We do. But I also think it's really important to note that the leaving isn't necessarily a physical leaving. Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
Like in Bible times, right? They didn't necessarily leave the house. The wife moved into the parents' house. They just put another room on, and that's right. But they were still commanded to do this.
That's right.
And in our day and age, you can very much leave your parents' house and not have left their direction and their you know what I mean? And it's not necessarily a physical leaving. It is very much an emotional one.
Yes. It's a both. It's a both one. Yeah.
It's a both. But, like there's cultures that live more communally than we do typically.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that.
No.
But I think there does need to be a very strict distinction between now you're married and you are with your wife and you're no longer with mom and dad.
Yeah, it's a good distinction because there was a time in our marriage where we said, hey, if everything fails, we can just move in with your parents. And even though we would have physically been there, we wouldn't have emotionally been tied. And I think that is way stronger to your point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple examples from our own marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, so
let's give an example of how we did it maybe bad and give an example of how we did it right.
And so I want to be very, very clear because as we're going to talk about later in this episode, I think that respecting your parents is very important.
Yeah.
So in no world am I sharing these stories to disrespect or demean my in-laws at all. This is stories about us and how we handle things poorly or well. This is not about them.
Yeah.
And I've said before, and I'll say it again, I truly love my in-laws. So like I said, I want to respect and honor them, but I'm also going to tell you guys the truth of how we did things and how that worked for us. So how things kind of didn't go so well for us at the beginning. And now this is kind of a catch-22, but when we first got married, so we were 23, 24 years old, we were in a lot of ways still very financially dependent on your parents.
Yeah.
And that is because you worked for your dad's business. So like literally our paycheck was tied to your parents. And that just felt.
Yeah, that's right.
And just the whole vibe of the thing was like, you still went to work with your dad every day. When we had children, you still had to get approval from your dad for being able to take time off to stay home with your wife. And, and that was a really big thing. When we went on vacation with your family, which we like to do, it was still like, you were still kind of on the clock and your dad still wanted you to do things. So it was like,
100%.
we didn't have this good separation. And that was very, very, very hard on our marriage.
Yeah. Well, it was hard in two specific ways. It was hard on the marriage because you and I, that was just a point of contention, right? We would have to discuss it. And it was just a conversation that was necessary that we had. Had I not been working for my parents, we wouldn't have had to have those conversations. Right. So that was tough. And so it was tough for us, but then it was also tough for the in-laws as well. Because now you're like, well, hey, there's an intrusiveness there. It's like, well, he's come, why do you have to do this with, work? And why is your dad doing X? And why is this? And so now not only is our relationship kind of in this turmoil state, but then it also brings bad blood with the in-laws and your relationship. So it was a twofold banger.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And can I just give a direct example? Is that okay?
Yeah.
You know what example I'm going to give, I'm sure.
Which one? I don't know.
When Armor was born.
Oh, yeah. That's a good example.
Okay, so this is just for the sake of learning.
Yeah, no bad blood. It's just an example.
But there could have been bad blood had we not handled it right.
Yeah,
so
of course.
This is kind of the tipping point for us.
Yeah. And this is early on in marriage.
Yeah, so our second son was born, and we had kind of discussed, when Armor's born, you're going to take 2 weeks off, I think it was.
Yeah.
We had an older child, and you were going to take 2 weeks off to kind of bond with the baby and help me.
That's right.
And your dad was not okay with this. This was outrageous to him. He didn't take any time off when he had his kids. I can't tell you how many times I heard the story about your mom had you, and then she came home from the hospital and she made your grandma a birthday cake. I've heard these stories, right?
Yeah.
So that was the expectation. You didn't need to take time off. Hailey could figure it out, and you get your butt back to work. Well, you took the first week off.
Yeah.
And then literally, so our son was born on a Tuesday. Monday, the next work week, your dad shows up at our house and is like, Rich, you got to get to work.
Yeah.
And I'm like sitting there at the kitchen counter or at the kitchen table. I'm trying to feed my 1-year-old. I'm nursing my newborn. And my father-in-law just walks in my house and tells my husband he's got to go to work. And then I'm not super happy to see him, right? Because I know why he's there. And then he was upset that I didn't get up and like greet him with a warm, happy greeting and was like talking to you, but being disrespectful to me.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. It's very fuzzy, but I do remember that.
It's not fuzzy for me.
Yeah, I remember that moment.
And so that was literally the moment where I was like, babe, we can't do this anymore because it is really important to me to have a good relationship with your parents. Working for them is not going to work anymore.
Yeah.
So that was really kind of the tipping point where we told this story before, but you quit. We didn't really have anything else lined up, but we knew you were going to figure something out. We moved about an hour and a half away to somewhere we could afford. And you had to make things happen because that just wasn't going to work for us anymore.
Yeah.
But so that was a situation. And on top of that, it was like, you weren't making enough money to sustain us, which like I said, we're going to own this stuff, right? Richard was not particularly good at this job. Didn't work particularly hard at it because he didn't like it.
And I wasn't as good of a human. I didn't have
as
a good
developed
identity.
of a person.
I didn't have, Yes.
And so your income reflected that, right?
Yeah.
But as your wife, feeling like, man, this paycheck is coming from your dad and we like literally can't even live. It felt, even though now I can look back and say that was not my father-in-law's fault, it felt very oppressive at the time because it felt like, man, he controls the paycheck and we're not making enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I can look back and not blame him, but at the time, I did.
You go back and you take extreme ownership and you're like, okay.
Which I wish I could have done better
We
at
have
the
a
time.
part. We have a part in this.
Oh, we have the entire part.
The entire part. Yeah, that's right.
But that was a hard thing at the time.
It was.
So
Yeah.
that was a hard season we lived through. That was
And it's also a blessing. It was a blessing because it happened early on in marriage and we had to navigate that together.
Yeah.
And we navigated it and it made us stronger.
Right. And so that was the first 3 years of our marriage.
Yes.
Until it reached the tipping point where we decided we got to do something different. This isn't the life we want.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
And so
Very grateful for that too. Because had I been in a better situation, I don't know if I would have gone on to do anything about it. So
yeah, it all worked out.
It all
all
works
good
for
things.
It's all for a purpose.
But it was a hard season for
right.
sure. And I want to share the hard seasons.
That's right.
So where do you want to take that?
Okay, so that was
That story.
Well, I mean, that's a great story of how we navigated that. So that's maybe how we did it right. Is there?
I would say
both.
we fixed it, but we did it wrong for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's a story of how we did it wrong and then how we fixed it.
Maybe the greater story in that is, look, if you're in a situation where you feel like the in-laws, it's like because you're working for your parents, or maybe your parents are just involved because you're living with your parents. You know, maybe there's a situation like that. I think the greater story is to find a way where you can correct it. And the faster that you correct it and you say, hey, this is not how we want to do things, and find a solution for it. Because that's what you and I did. It was like, look, we don't want to really do this. This doesn't work. And so we can either sit in this and always just kind of be frustrated, or we can make a change.
Or we can fix it, yeah.
And so we decided to fix it. And so I think that might be the greater message. It's like, yeah, you might be in a circumstance where your in-laws are so commingled, you find it very hard to have that leave and cleave moment. But remember this, you're in control. And you can do the actions and take the things to fix it and correct it and move fast on it.
Yeah.
And so that might be a good lesson.
Yeah. And I think where that can get really hard is for the couples who haven't done the emotional leaving, right? Like you really did do a really good job leaving your father and mother and cleaving to me. And I knew that.
Yeah.
And so even though we still had this very physical tie of the work and the paycheck to your parents, I knew
100%.
that you and I were going to make decisions together. And that was the way it was going to go. Now, I think when you have a much bigger problem is when you have those couples that haven't done the emotional part. So it's like, I still got to go and I got to check with dad to make sure I can quit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Or I've got to go check with dad and make sure I can make this purchase. Or I've got to go
100%,
check with mom and make sure she likes the couch in this room. Even though you and I like it, I have to go make sure my mom
That's right.
likes it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you
Yes.
can get really kind of messy there.
Very messy.
And I'm all for asking input and asking opinion, but
There's an order to it.
there's an order to it.
There's
and I
an
think
order
it's
to it.
far more important that your spouse knows that their opinion is more important than your spouse's or than your parents' opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, even if your mom thinks the couch would look better the other way, but your husband's already made it clear he likes it this way, you leave it that way.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's right.
Or if your mom really hates the paint color on your wall, but your husband picked it and he loves it, you leave the paint color.
And it's so hard because maybe somebody deep down, they're like, oh, I'm disrespecting my parents. You know, I'm not honoring my parents, or I'm not obeying my parents. So we're going to talk about that. But, some of those fears come into play. And it's so, because you just spent, 20, maybe 25, 30 years of your life under your parents' wing, to now not listen to what they're saying in some way almost feels like
Disrespect.
oh, I'm like, these are my parents, so I can kind of get that, but we gotta move on. We have to move on from that.
Yeah. Or like as a wife, if your husband has this investment that he's working on and he's making these investments for your family.
Yeah.
But then your dad is being really critical of your husband and
Yes.
he thinks that investment is ridiculous and he thinks your husband's making a huge mistake. You need to believe in your husband and go all in with him. And maybe that even means you have to tell your dad, hey, dad, this is not really up for discussion
That's right.
anymore.
Yeah.
I'm following my husband's leadership and this is
Yeah.
I understand that you love us and you're trying to do the best for us, but this is what we're doing.
That's exactly right.
I think you have to do that sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think it's very fascinating in Scripture. So ultimately, what God is saying in in Genesis 2:24 is that the ultimate version of this is where the wife and the man become one flesh, right? However, if you notice in that verse, he doesn't start with they become one flesh. He starts with the man first must leave, right? So leave, then cleave, and then the result of leaving and cleaving is what? Is the two become one flesh. And so just to kind of give a framework with this, and I kind of already said it, it's you leave, you cleave, and then you become. And so make no mistake about it. The word leave in the Bible literally means like leave. So it comes from the Hebrew word azab. I don't know if I said that right.
Sounds right.
But it literally means to abandon or forsake. And so you hear that, you're like, whoa, that's intense. But yeah, it doesn't mean like you're just moving to a different zip code per se. It literally means that your parents are no longer your primary loyalty. So you have to leave that. And that is step number one, okay? Then number two is now you have to cleave, all right? And what cleave means is to be joined. So for example, when you have a decision, right? Let's just say a decision comes up and you're the man and your first instinct is like, well, let me call my mom. I want to talk to my mom about that, get her opinion. That's not a bad thought, but that's the wrong first thought. The first thought should always be, oh my gosh, I wonder what my wife, I want to call my wife right now and I want to get her opinion on this, right? And then after your wife's opinion, yeah, maybe you call your mom and get her opinion. But
Maybe.
Maybe. But all I'm saying is that cleaving moment is the answer to this. It's like me and my wife decide together. It's no longer me going to my parents for my first authority or my dad or my mom. It's like, no, I go to my spouse. And that cleaving is very important and it must happen, right? So any thoughts on that?
No, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but we were talking about how if you do that well, and your wife knows that she's your first priority, and she knows that like you go to her first, you go to her opinion weighs heavier for you, all the defenses kind of drop. And then she's a lot more willing to let your mom in, and she's a lot more welcoming with your mom. But if she feels like she's competing for you, which I would tell wives, I think one of the best gifts you can give your husband is to love his mother, right? Because that's a horrible place to be in, is to have to choose between your mom and your wife. But I think a lot of husbands can put themselves in that position by not ordering the wife and the mother correctly.
Yes.
And I think that you can love your mom and you can appreciate all that she did for you. And you also need to set that very clear boundary of, and you kind of have to like teach your mom where they are in your life now, right?
100%.
Because it's new for them too.
That's right.
And so you have to kind of, what do they say? Boundaries are not for the other person, they're for you. So like you have to kind of enforce your own boundaries and what you're comfortable with and what you are willing to do if your boundaries are crossed.
Yeah. And it's no different than when you're parenting a child. The worst thing that you can do when you have a kid, as you know, is sometimes you enforce the boundary, sometimes you don't. And what does that do to the kid? It confuses them.
It's confusing.
They don't know what's allowed, what's not allowed. What are the rules to the game? And so you can do the same with your parents.
Well, and you'll find, especially with kids and with parents, if you allow it one time and then you try to lock down and not allow
it's confusing.
Well, not only is it confusing, but they're going to kind of push a little bit harder because they know if I push hard enough, I can get them to crack.
Exactly.
So they're going to, but once they realize like, oh, okay, they don't move at all, they back off.
Yeah, of course. The rules are set.
Yeah. But if you give in even a little bit, even once, you're making your job a lot harder.
That's right.
Because now they know, okay, they're crackable. You need to send the message that you were uncrackable. There was a thing in here that said in between, like there's no light in between the husband and wife. There is no room for weaseling in and being like, oh my gosh, your husband is such an idiot, or oh my gosh, your wife, I can't believe she would do this. Like there's no light between the two.
No.
And that I think is really important.
Very much so. And so the last point on this is once you leave, once you cleave, now guess what? You become. And the one flesh happens as a result of those two. And so I truly, believe this in a lot of ways. Like if you find that you and your spouse are not having that oneness, this might be an area where you say, man, maybe this is the reason why. Maybe we haven't entirely left and cleaved together. And it's impossible to become one. That's why God put it in that order.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, and that what might even be a bigger problem is, okay, so it's one thing to have a good relationship with your parents and to like seek their approval and seek their opinion on a lot of things because you have a good relationship with them.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think what maybe is even harder is if you have a bad relationship with your parents And then you have this thing from your childhood where you're always seeking their approval and never getting it.
Yeah, of course.
So now in your adult relationship, you want mom to just tell you did a good job. You want dad to just tell you he's proud of you. So you're constantly striving for that at the expense of your wife.
That's right.
Because you're just like, and you have to learn it, and this is sad because in all healthy relationships with our parents, we should get those things, right? Our parents should tell us they're proud of us and we're doing a good job,
Yeah,
even as
ideally,
adults.
that's the ultimate framework.
But in some situations with some parents, you're just not going to get that. And you need to just let that go. Let go the striving for that.
Yeah.
And just go all in with your wife.
That's
because that's going to destroy not only your relationship with your parents, which was never good in the first place, but it's going to destroy your relationship with your wife.
Absolutely. Yeah. And here's the thing too. There's a verse, right? Matthew 19:5-6 says, what God has joined together, let no man separate. Now, here's the fascinating part about this verse is that who's most likely to separate you guys? The people that are most likely to separate you are not the people that are furthest from you, not the strangers in your life. Mm-hmm. They're the people that are closest to you. And who's the closest to you? It's friends and it's family. And those people those are the most dangerous people to sometimes let in because they can cause a separation.
Or what if like most people, when they hear that verse, they're thinking that means an affair. Well, I'm not having an affair. So there's nobody in between our marriage.
Well, yeah.
But like it could be your father-in-law in between your marriage.
Of course. And that's what I'm getting to. I mean, this could be the thing that separates you guys. Mm-hmm. And you have to be hyper aware of it. Now, thank goodness that our in-laws, we've had some issues or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
But we set the boundaries and guess what? They've paid attention and we have a great relationship with our in-laws, mm-hmm. right? And to this day, it's something that we enjoy together and we can have fun together. Now, had we have not set those boundaries, it could still to really this hard, day, it could have been something that was separating us. And we just squash it.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I don't know if this will come up later or if I should just give this example now, but I can give an example of no, this is going to come up later.
Yeah. Why? What are you thinking?
Well,
we could go with the honor versus obey because I know that's kind of
that's for sure going to come up too. But no, so at some point I think it talks about how like if your mom is causing a problem, how you address her, or if it's my mom, I address her, but like you kind of are responsible for addressing your own parents. Now. And I think that's really important. And I think that's really, really true.
So what are your thoughts? I mean, you were talking about this one in the beginning. Do you want to hit on
Which one is this?
This is the children obey, adults honor.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this is a really important distinction, right? And I think that this can get misused and manipulated by maybe well-meaning, but
and I think it's very well-meaning. I think it's always very well-meaning. It's like, oh, hey,
it can also be manipulative, though,
and it might be. I would say for the most part, people just use it maybe slightly out of context.
Yeah. So the difference between obeying and honoring, right? Ephesians 6:1, children, obey your parents in the Lord. That's the relationship of a dependent to an authority.
Yeah.
Right? A child is under the parent's covering, provision, and direction. Obedience is the appropriate response. However, as an adult, we are called to honor our father and mother.
That's right.
When you get married, you are no longer a child in the biblical family structure. Honor means you respect them, care for them, speak well of them, and are grateful.
That's right.
It does not mean that you do what they say. It does not mean that they get decision-making power in your marriage, and it does not mean that their feelings override your spouse's need.
Exactly.
So if your parents are coming to you saying, hey, you have to obey me.
That's right.
No, you do not.
No, you do not. Yeah. That's the distinction.
Yes.
Is that obedience is for children, honor is for adults.
Yes.
And there's times where you don't obey your parents is still honoring them.
Yes.
And I think that's the distinction.
And you can let them know, I love you. I appreciate your concern.
Yeah.
But that is not going to be the decision I make this time,
And now, speaking to the dudes, because look, there is something, as you know this, we have two boys. Mm-hmm. You love our boys.
I love them.
Riker is and Armor. I mean, they just have a special place in your heart, And there's going to come a time where they're going to get married, right? And it can be tough for men, especially with moms, because they just have this tender spot, And I think it can be, and I'm speaking out of experience, that for a man to go against what his mom might say is very hard. Because you feel like you're not honoring them in some way. But now, as a man, you have to realize your higher allegiance now is to your wife. And so you can still like if your mom has, oh, hey, son, you should do X. It doesn't mean, and your wife's like, well, I don't think we should do that. Like, let's talk, just discuss, right? As a man, you no longer have to say like, well, hey, I'm going to go and like, I have to do what my mom says. Like, even though you're going to have that inclination, it's like this pull is going to be on your heart. Like, it's my mom, you know?
Can you give like an actual example from our own life of when maybe your mom and I were at odds with something? And
100%.
Okay, give an example. I would
I
love
mean,
to know.
my whole family. So when we moved away, my family hated it. It was like, what are you doing? What do you mean you're moving away? Like, where are you going? Why are you going to go over there? I don't agree with it. That's a bad move. That's a bad play. It's a bad decision. Why are you going to leave the family business right now? You got no money. You have no experience. Like, all these things were bad moves in my parents' eyes. Now, did I still do it? Yes. And did I still honor them? I still did. And I know I did because I said, hey guys, I appreciate your opinion. I totally get it. From the outside looking in, this is probably not the move that you would advise as parents. I know you love me and I know you're saying it because you do love me. However, me and Hailey have talked about it. We have a plan and we want to follow through with that plan together. And so that's how I did it, you know? And now had I been like, you know what, my mom, she's my mom. She wants the best for me. I'm going to obey my mom. Like, she knows what's best for me. No, I didn't do that. Right. And I could have, and I wanted to in some regard. It was like, I know my mom,
more comfortable.
I know my mom just loves me and she wouldn't steer me wrong, you know? But at the same point, it's you and I now. And we had this new vision and this new plan that we wanted to go together. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't soon after that everybody kind of came on board. You know, it's like, hey, and they've told me now, like, son, you did the right thing, right? You made the right call in that circumstance. However, it wasn't the easiest option.
You used to say something at that time that I think probably just helped you navigate that. And you used to say something about your parents wanting the best for you, but their job is to protect you.
Yeah.
But okay, do you remember what you used to say?
Yeah. Look, what I realized really early on is that my parents' first job was to make sure that I wasn't in danger. So they were protecting me. They're like, son, if you go do this, you can get hurt. It might not work out. And then you're going to be left stranded. Like, which is all true. So their first allegiance, like a parent's first thing is they don't want to see you get hurt. So of course they're going to say, when they see danger, they're going to let you know, son, there's danger there. If you touch the stove, it's going to burn you.
Yeah.
And so that's how I took it. I didn't take it as like, they don't want me to succeed. They want me to succeed. They want me to be super successful. However, they don't want to put me in danger.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was experiencing in that season. It was like this pull between my parents love me and they want what's best for me because my parents are both awesome and I know they want what's best for me. However, they didn't want to see me get hurt. And that's why sometimes you have to go against the grain a little bit and say, I get it, mom and dad, and I appreciate that. And I know you love me and I know you care for me. However, this is my next move. And here's why, you know? And so.
Yeah. And that was truly the best season and the best thing for our marriage.
That was the total cleaving and leaving moment. Like that really, we cleaved. Not leaving, but the cleaving.
It was both.
It was both.
It was a physical leaving.
It was, yeah.
But it was the best thing for our marriage. And it really felt like, okay, we are a team and it's you and I against the world. And like, that was like a really foundational building decision for us.
It was 100%. Yeah.
So that was good. And I remember when my parents first got married, they moved from California, where they were from, to Pennsylvania for the first year of their marriage. And my dad always said that was the best thing for their marriage.
I was going to bring that up.
Because, you know, my dad didn't have a good family growing up, so he didn't really have that. But my mom was very, very close to her parents, particularly to her dad. And I think my mom really needed that season to like be all in with my dad. And my dad says it was, so my parents always kind of encouraged that in a way, even though as a parent, you don't want your children to move away. They were very supportive of the idea just because it was so good for them. And my parents, you guys know, my dad passed a couple of years ago, 100%. But my parents had a really, really beautiful marriage.
They did.
They really did. So they were very supportive of that.
They really did. And yeah, I always remember that. So your dad shared that with me multiple times, is like, Rich, one of the best things that we ever did for our marriage was move away. And how long did they do it for?
It was only a year.
Yeah. And literally the only reason why they did it is because they felt like they had to cleave. It was like this, I need to get my whatever our circumstance away from our parents to really build our own thing. And that's how I took it from your dad. And it was like, that was the moment that changed our marriage.
Yeah.
That's how I took it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's why they did it. I think it was just a job opportunity, took them away.
Yeah.
But they were very, very grateful for the decision.
Yeah, for sure. Now, maybe you could speak to the wives on like whose own mothers are overstepping and they haven't recognized it yet.
Yeah. I see this a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'll say I can speak to this really more so as an outsider looking in because my mom does not do this.
Yeah.
But I've seen it.
Uh-huh.
And, just with silly things like, a husband and wife going to pick their Christmas tree, but they won't go without their mom because they need their mom's opinion on the Christmas tree. It's like, man, just like go pick a tree with your husband, like, I don't know. I find that to me, that's a symbol of a bigger problem.
Yeah.
If you have those kinds of feelings. So I would just really, really encourage wives, if you feel like something good happens and the first person you want to call is your mom or dad, you've got a red flag there.
Yeah.
If something bad happens and the first person you want to call is your mom or dad, that's a red flag. And you need to take those to seriously look internally and like be honest with yourself that, okay, I probably haven't done the leaving very well here.
Yeah.
And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Your marriage will suffer. If you think that you're the exception and you can manage both and that no, you can't, because your husband needs to know that A, he is the leader, that he has the final say for his family, and that he has all the respect in the heart of his wife.
That's right.
Your husband doesn't want to split that with your dad or with your mom.
No. That's right.
Exactly. And the same thing I say about a wife is if she knows that she's honored and respected and held in the highest esteem with her husband, she's a lot more comfortable letting her mother-in-law in. I think the same can be true of your husband and your father and his father-in-law.
Oh, yeah.
If you're feeling some tension there, it's probably because you haven't done a good job letting your husband know you're my number one and I'm all in with you and I'll go wherever you go, and dad's a supporting role here.
That's right.
But
for a girl, I can imagine that's very scary because your dad is like your rock for forever.
Well, you know what I really appreciated when we first got married, my dad told me, hey, if you and Rich are fighting and you've got issues at home,
don't call me.
You can't come back here.
Yeah.
Like you figure it out.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that. There was no like, hey, you can sleep on our couch when things get hard. That was not an option for me, and I knew that. Now, obviously, if things had been abusive or dangerous, that would have been a different conversation. But that was never
of course.
our situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a gift you can give your children as an in-law, is to say, hey, you need to figure it out with your spouse. Don't call me about your marital problems. Mm-hmm. Don't call me.
It's a great way to help frame your kid's marriage. Mm-hmm. You're setting them up for success. It's like, here's how to think about it. Don't come back to me. Go to your spouse.
Yes. And I think we can kind of fool ourselves into thinking we're just like asking for advice or asking for counsel. We're just gossiping about our husband, right? Now, if you do need advice, that's different. And maybe your mom is but like we've talked about this before. Does your mom have the marriage that you want? If she doesn't, that's not who you go to for advice.
Yeah.
You love your mom. You go have lunch with your mom. That's not who you go to for marriage advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Find someone else and find someone who can be a neutral party and find someone who's not going to look at your husband differently after this conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
You need to, protecting your husband needs to be your first priority there.
That's right.
Unless he is being abusive, in which case we don't protect
Disclaimer.
that. Yes. But like I've said before, our content is for Christian married couples who love each other and love being married. So if you are in an abusive situation, you're welcome here, but the advice you need is probably somewhere else.
That's exactly right.
But in a normal, healthy marriage with two people who love each other, you need to protect your spouse and protect their image with your family, and not go to your family with every little grievance and every little fight and every little, oh my gosh, can you believe he said this?
It ain't going to work out too well. Let me tell you that. So maybe we should go to the first phone call test.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yes.
All right. The first phone call test. All right. Number 1, when something good happens, who do you call first? Got a promotion at work. You found out you're pregnant. If your mom hears it before your spouse, that's a sign that you probably haven't left yet. Mm-hmm. That's test number 1. When something good happens, where do you go? right? Test number 2. When something bad happens, who do you call first? Lost your job, got a scary diagnosis, you had a big fight with your spouse. You just talked about this. If you're venting to your parents before finishing the conversation with your spouse, guess what? You haven't left. So that's 2, when something bad happens. And then number 3, I mean, and just the viewers, as you're listening to this, just think about what you normally do, right? What's your first inclination? When you need to make a big decision, whose opinion do you ask?
That's a big one.
Right? You're buying a house. Oh, mom, dad, what do you think? Hey, do you think I should move here? Is this going to be a good move for me and Dan or whatever? You're changing careers. You're disciplining the kids. If your dad's input carries more weight than your spouse's, guess what? You haven't left yet.
Yeah. And notice we're not saying you don't ask your parents.
No, I'm not saying
that. If their input carries more weight.
It's the first phone call test.
So if you
Who do you want to hear from first? I'm sorry, I keep...
Yes.
Yeah.
If you and your husband go to see a house.
Yeah.
And you both love it and you're so excited and you want your parents to come see it.
Yes.
And then they kind of like, I don't know, it's a little far. And the backyard kind of backs up to that main street and it's a little loud. And then after that, you're like, you know what, babe, I don't think this is the right house anymore. It's like, well, you were really excited about it with your husband. So whose opinion weighs more, your husband or your parents? Maybe they brought up some valid points you didn't see. But like for us, this is just our example. We have never bought a house. We've never taken our parents to a house before we bought it.
Yes.
We always made an offer, got our offer accepted, had escrow started, and then we'll say, hey, come see this house we bought. We're really excited about it.
That's exactly right.
When we had our children, we didn't find out if we were having boys or girls and didn't share names before they were born because we're just going to tell you what their name is. We don't really want it. We're not asking opinions. When we had our first 2 kids at a hospital, normal hospital birth, and then our last 2 we had at home. Well, for our first home birth, we didn't tell anybody we were having a home birth because we didn't want any opinions. So literally, the baby was born. We called everybody and we're like, oh, hey, the baby's here. And they're like, oh, what hospital? We'll come meet her. And we're like, actually, actually, we're at home. Yeah, come on over.
What? What is it?
Because we felt really good about it and we didn't need or want any other opinions.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of just made steps throughout our marriage that have kind of made it clear to people like, hey, Rich and Hailey, unless they're asking, they're just informing.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's important. I think that's good.
It is important. And then you also, on the other hand, you like very little input. Like we talked about this in another podcast where it's like, hey, if I don't ask, don't say. I'm more on the of the camp of like, I don't mind if you say. I actually, I want to hear what you have to say, and then I'll make my own decision. Where we kind of differ in a little bit in that category, where it's like, don't ask, don't say. I'm like, go ahead and say, but I'm,
Well, because here's something that I've just kind of learned about your family.
Yeah.
Is that if they have an opportunity to give their opinion, they will.
Oh, of course.
And you're going to hear it.
Yes.
And, there's some things I just don't want it on, to be honest.
No, and that's how you feel. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's just how I feel.
100%. Yeah. So I have a little note here. It says your spouse should be your first call, your first counsel, and your first loyalty in every category. If they're not, that's not an in-law problem. That's a leaving problem. And so one thing too that I want to mention now, this might be a slight little commercial here. So as we're talking about these things, and you might be saying, man, you know what? We actually, me and my spouse, we do X. Like this is actually a big one of ours. Or, hey, you know what? These guys make a lot of sense. Me and my spouse struggle here. Sometimes it's hard to have these conversations and you don't know how to necessarily bring them up. So something that Hailey and I created is called Spark Check-In, right? You can go to sparkcheckin.com, the first link in the bio. And what it is and what Hailey and I realized is that every week we needed a real way to connect with each other that wasn't like, the normal day-to-day. So what Spark Check-In is you rate 9 areas of your marriage every week, right? So you answer, your spouse answers separately. You can add notes, and then you come together and see where you guys are, connected and where you're not connected. And then the notes you can kind of put privately. So when you come together, you're like, hey, you know what? Like last week, I didn't really appreciate when you did this. I wish you could do that. And you can say it privately and then talk about it together. So it's been something that Hailey and I have done in our marriage that really helped. We dream bigger. We feel more connected. And it's just a ritual that we wanted to bring to everybody else. So anyways, first links in bio if you're interested.
Yeah. And when we started that practice, it was in that season we talked about where we were making that decision to leave our families, move an hour away, make some decisions that people didn't understand.
Yeah.
That was when we started that practice. And we started with an actual physical book And we really just wanted to create it in a way that was more accessible, easier on the phone.
It's a game changer for us.
Yeah.
For us.
I mean,
Yeah.
game changer.
Next level game changer.
Yeah. So this next framework is actually my favorite one in the whole podcast.
The wall and the door?
The wall and the door. It says most couples either build a fortress and cut off their family entirely, or they have no walls at all. The family just walks in whenever they want. Neither is biblical. The goal is a wall with a door, right? So the wall, you and your spouse decide what the boundaries are, not your parents, not your in-laws, the two of you. The wall protects the covenant. So you're not going to your parents and like, hey, is it okay if we don't really ask you about financial decisions anymore? That's not how you create a boundary.
Yeah.
You let them know, hey,
this is the boundary.
Yeah. Richard and I's finances is not up for discussion anymore. There's a wall here,
Yep. Wall set. Bam.
Wall set.
Shebang.
But you can leave the door open, right? So like, hey, knock, knock, knock. Can I make a comment about your investment here? Sure. Yes, you can. I would love to hear it. Or no, Dad, I told you finances are not on the table anymore. Yeah. And so that's where the door with the wall comes in. The wall has a door, and you and your spouse hold the key together. You invite family in on your terms into your home, into your traditions, and into your life. But they come through the door. They don't climb the wall.
Yeah, they don't climb the wall.
And you might have some in-laws that are just a little more bullish, and they want to just break through the wall.
You got any wall climbers in your marriage?
We don't, thank God.
No, we don't have any wall climbers.
We really don't.
We don't. Yeah,
but some people might.
It's a great visual, though.
It is a great visual.
Yeah.
But some people might also make the mistake of building the wall and having the door, but then giving their in-laws the key.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you keep the key.
Yeah.
And you can. And this is honestly, this is a physical, like literally, your home should not be something that your parents can just walk into whenever they want. They are welcome whenever, if they call beforehand and let me know they're coming, I would love to have them.
Yeah.
But they can't, you know what I mean? Like there just has to be a boundary there. This is our space.
Yeah.
And we love having you here, but like you don't, you know what I mean?
And on the flip side, your in-laws can also provide a lot of beauty for your marriage as well.
Yes.
So you don't want to keep the door locked and throw away the key. So that could be another extreme.
Okay, that's a great,
Yeah. Want to speak on that?
Yeah. I mean, I do. But
again, because look, when it's done right, the in-laws actually enhance your marriage. They give you memories that you can't forget. They give you seasons in your life that you go and your kids will remember and your cousins will remember. So like there's beautiful moments in that.
Oh my gosh.
So you don't want to just, like I said, lock the door and keep it locked.
Yeah. And honestly, and if you have only young kids, like you may not really believe me when I say this, but there will come a time with your children where what you say doesn't hold as much weight for them. But you need other people around you that hold the same values and can speak into your children in ways that aren't you.
That's right.
And I think in-laws can be maybe the best second step there.
That's right, yeah.
Where they can speak into your children. They can love your children. They can be another strong, solid adult for your children. When your kids get to that preteen, teenage age where they just think mom and dad have lost it, they have this other adult. And I think aunts and uncles can also be a really good benefit there.
Oh, I know for us it's been huge.
Oh my gosh. And so I just have to say, I didn't grow up with aunts and uncles or cousins. And so to me, that has just like been the best gift besides siblings that I could give to my children is aunts and uncles and cousins. I just think they're the best. And I love being an aunt so much. It's so much fun. But anyways, so I think that's a really important part is you maybe don't even keep the door locked, but just have like the handle turned. So give a little resistance for coming in, but make it very, very open and very, very welcoming. I love when my in-laws come over. They'll come and just hang out all day. And I genuinely love it.
No, it's great.
I genuinely love it.
Good conversation. And here's the thing, is that if you go through this episode and you start building those boundaries and you start kind of following this blueprint that we're laying out, you really don't have to, the door
You can enjoy the relationship.
You can enjoy the relationship. And you're not going to have to worry as much about locking the door so much.
100,000%. Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's really important to note the boundaries are created by you and your spouse.
Yes.
So, and it's not just you and it's not just your spouse. You guys have to come together and both be comfortable with the boundaries.
100%.
Now, like I said earlier, boundaries are for you. They're not for the other person, right? So you need to set what you're comfortable with. And then you also need to set what you are going to do if your boundaries are crossed. This is not a rule like you have with your children that hey, I will punish you this way if you don't do it. This is, hey, if you cross this boundary, This is what I will do.
That's right.
If you bring up finances again when I've told you this is no longer part of the discussion, Rich and I will leave.
Yeah.
If you cross this boundary, Rich and I will not attend Sunday dinner anymore. If you feed my child this thing that I've asked you not to feed them, we will not be coming to whatever it is that you have to draw.
Yeah.
But the boundary's
right.
about you.
That's right.
So you can never say, like, you can't give up the control there. If you feed my kid this gluten, when I've asked you not to feed her gluten, you're the worst grandma in the world. It's like, well, no, you have to be willing to, like, it's about you.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. 100%. Yep. I agree with that. Yep. And, I think we already hit on this, but this is kind of just a cool thing to throw in there, which I agree with. But when somebody crosses the boundary, and they will, whether it's your spouse's wife or whatever it is, the parent who crossed it is the one who addresses it. So the spouse whose parent crossed it is the one that addressed it. And you kind of hit on this earlier.
Well, and I would actually expound on that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's majority of the time true, because majority of the time, in-laws are going to have issues with the other person, right?
That's right.
But like I said, so I think it's almost the person who's offended, the other spouse needs to step in for them. So like we had an example where it was your mom was upset with you.
Well, you have to defend your spouse. Yeah,
right.
Of course.
So I stepped in to defend you because that was not okay. Where typically if your mom was upset, it's probably going to be at me, not at you, right? Typically.
Yeah, maybe. She was upset at me that last one that we had, remember? When I didn't tell her that we were going to postpone Thanksgiving, or what was it?
I think she was mad at both of us. It was Mother's Day.
Well, she was first mad at you because she thought you were the one, but then when she realized, it was actually Rich that didn't say anything and forgot. Mm-hmm. And so that was...
And it was not that you forgot. It was that you avoided.
I avoided, but then I also, in the avoiding, I almost forgot. It was like, dude... But
no, that's another good example. But yeah, I think that whoever is being disrespected, the spouse has to come in and say, hey, we're not going to do that.
You got to back your spouse up, girl.
Back your spouse.
Maybe we should make a song. Back your spouse up.
Thank you.
You like that?
Yeah. But it says, when your spouse confronts your parent, it feels like an attack. When you confront your own parent, it communicates my marriage comes first.
That's right.
Okay, here. If your spouse won't set a boundary with their parents, they're choosing their parents' comfort over your marriage.
Don't do that.
Ouch. Now this one, okay, we can talk about this a little bit because it says, stop splitting holidays. You are your own family now.
Ooh.
And so we have definitely had to navigate that.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one because there's a couple of reasons why it's tough. For one, we both have families that celebrate holidays and both of them want more than a few hours, right? So it's like, man, I can't spend 7 hours with both of you on Christmas. It's not possible.
That's right.
So that's really hard. Thankfully, our parents have been pretty good about one person will do it one day, one person will do it the other day for the most part.
Yeah, we've gone around a lot of holidays now where either one will do it just a different day.
Yeah.
And this was the first Christmas ever where we did this. And it was very nice.
It was a lot more enjoyable.
I'm not going to say it was very nice.
So for the first couple of years of our marriage, we would try to double up holidays. Thanksgiving, Easter, we're trying to do both. And it was, honestly, it got to the point where we didn't enjoy holidays. It wasn't fun. And then once we had kids, it was like, I kind of felt like, man, I really want to enjoy the holidays with my kids.
That's right.
So we're not doubling up anymore. So for a period, we told our parents, hey, we're not doubling up anymore except for Christmas.
That's right.
Everything else will either alternate years or you guys have to do a different day, but we're not going to double up anymore. And then this year was the first year it wasn't even Christmas. So that still is a really hard one for me to navigate, honestly, because I have a really, really hard time feeling like I'm inconveniencing people. And it's hard because on your side of the family, majority of the people don't really have any other family to celebrate holidays with.
Yeah.
Or they do a little 2-3 hour thing where my family wants more time. And so I feel like I'm having to tell them hey, I'm the one who can't do it. Right. And the same on my side. My siblings and their spouses don't really have anyone to celebrate holidays with. So it feels like I'm always the problem on both sides. Yeah. And I'm always inconveniencing everybody. And that's really hard for me.
Yeah, of course.
And it can be hard to communicate hey, sorry, we're not going to make this one, because some big disappointment comes with that.
Yeah,
so our next one to navigate is Easter, which we got to
Easter's coming in. Oh, I know. We actually have to start talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But for the most part, we try to be fair, right? If one family is constantly not able to do the holiday on the actual day, we try to even that out. We try to be fair, but man, it's hard. It's hard. That one's really hard.
But it's been way less hard now not having to split so many holidays. It's
It's
been
more
nice.
the actual holiday itself is a lot more enjoyable for us because we're not trying to double up anymore. But it's like the weeks leading
Coordinating.
up. It's the weeks leading
coordinate
up
this, coordinate that. Yeah.
that I dread every holiday every time because I'm like, man, I got to have these conversations again, and someone's going to be disappointed. Oh,
Now, here's another thing, though, is that we've been doing it more and more years. There's some holidays where we already kind of just know. It's
like what?
Well, Thanksgiving. Like, we already know it's going to be, we don't we typically do Thanksgiving with your family and then my
No, we always do Thanksgiving with your family because your family does Black Friday, so they can't do
the
Friday.
Black Friday. Oh, so we do it separately. Yeah, okay, maybe not. So or
Yeah,
maybe I have it
I don't
opposite.
feel
Maybe I have
like
it
there's
opposite.
like a good predictable
yeah
pattern yet.
However, I will say this: if you are married and you guys, say, hey, we don't want to split holidays, and you can kind of figure out how to have the same holiday on different days.
Okay, but let's also talk about this because we've also known people that are like, they're married and they've got their spouse and they've got their children, but hey, mom says I have to be there on Thanksgiving and I have to be there all day, so that's what we have to do. It's like, well, no, your wife has a family too, and you've got to take her into consideration.
Yeah, that's kind of a tricky.
And you've got to
to
take your wife's desire. She probably doesn't want to be at your mom's all day.
No.
And not see her family. Like, how ridiculous. Your mom doesn't get to decide what you do.
No.
Your wife doesn't, or your mom doesn't get a vote. You decide that with your wife and inform your mom. That's one that would make me nuts.
Don't do that.
It's Mother's Day, so we have to spend the day with my mom. It's like, no, I am a
You're a
mom too.
Yeah, you're a mom.
And
Yeah.
I've got a mom too.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
know, so it's like you got to be, especially men, I think. No, I'm not going to say especially men. I think women can do this too. But you have to be really considerate of your spouse.
Yeah.
And make sure you're coming to the decision together.
Yeah.
And it's not you and your spouse or you and your parents informing your spouse.
Yeah.
It should never be that way.
Yeah.
It's always you and your spouse making a decision together.
I think how we've adopted, unless you kind of disagree, it's like Mother's Day, you kind of run the roost a little bit on that day, and then Father's Day, I run it a little bit more heavy my way. So it's like, but again, you are the mom, and then I am the dad.
Yeah.
And it's like,
but like Mother's Day, okay, let's just go there because
Yeah.
Mother's Day is hard because I do kind of feel that way. Like, hey, I'm a mom, so I should kind of get to call the shots on Mother's Day. But at the same time, your mom's a mom. You have two sisters.
Yeah, we have all moms.
So like in your sisters' families, for example, if they both feel like, well, hey, we're moms, so we get to decide what Mother's Day is. So then they get together on Mother's Day. Then
yeah, it's tricky.
it gets hard.
It gets hard.
Father's Day is a little bit easier in some ways because my dad's not around anymore. So my family is a lot more flexible with Father's Day. We'll celebrate my grandpa and my brother another day, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But Mother's Day is still hard.
Yeah.
It's just hard. The holidays are hard.
Some things are just hard. Got to choose your hard.
Yeah, but make sure you're choosing your spouse in the hard and not your
That's right.
parents in the hard.
That's right.
Yes. So
What do you think? Good episode.
And the one thing I just want to communicate more than anything else is that your in-laws can be the greatest blessing to your life and to your family, and you should welcome them in wholeheartedly and with so much love, and they can be such a fragrance to your life. It just has to be ordered properly.
That's
And
right.
as long as it's ordered properly, you can really enjoy that relationship.
Amen to that,
And
sister.
so I don't ever want to send the message to anybody that you should cut your in-laws off. I would
Yeah.
never send that message to anybody.
That is not the message. Hopefully nobody got that message.
No, that is never the message. This was purely about you and your spouse and how you can do a good job cleaving to each other.
Yeah. What's the framework? It's leave, cleave, and then become one.
Well, and the biggest tagline was your in-laws aren't the problem, you are.
You are. Bam.
There you go.
Well, we have date night tonight.
Yes.
So we're going to leave here and get some food.
Go
I have
eat.
no idea where we're going. I
hungry.
suggested a spot. Haley said no. So now she's going to kind of give me the lowdown.
Yes.
So I'm kind of...
Real quick, do our little podcasty things. I want to make sure we don't have any questions that came in from my little question box on
podcasty
Instagram.
thing. So, the biggest podcasty thing that we have is please share this podcast. That helps us tremendously. As you know, me and Haley are passionate about marriage. That's why we do this content, by the way, just to help people and enjoy your marriage. So if you enjoy the content, there's chances are somebody else would enjoy the content. And that's the biggest, what's the word I'm looking for? That's the biggest validation you can give us is sharing the podcast.
Sure.
And then if you want any resources, links are down below, sparkchecking.com. You can join the prayer challenge. We also have the marriage transformation if you're interested in that. And we hope that you have a great week. And what else? Subscribe, like, all the good stuff.
All the good stuff.
All the good stuff.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Love
All right,
you.
babes. Love you. Talk soon.
All right.
Bye.